The House will come to order. Without objection, we'll revert to reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business is online. If there is no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions online. Without objection, we'll take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail.
Lucero moves that the rules of the House be so far suspended that House Concurrent Resolution Number 10 be recalled from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration and be placed upon its final adoption.
Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Several weeks ago, when we heard another resolution, House Resolution or HC 8, there was feedback I heard from multiple members. So this resolution before us now is what I drafted. It's HC 10. And what I attempted to do was to incorporate the feedback that I heard last time along with the resolutions that were offered before, HC 8 and HC 9. So HC 8 offered previously was Drazkowski's, Representative Drazkowski, and HC 9 was previously offered by Representative Doubt. And so I took the language from those two, incorporated them into the resolution you see before us, as well as Representative Winkler offered some feedback that I agreed with in regards to the previous resolutions that I also then incorporated into the resolution before us, again, HC 10. So I would hope, members, that you would support this motion. And the reason why is because businesses continue to struggle. Obviously, they are unable to open in many cases. And it is just not fair, members. We hear the refrain that remaining safe and businesses being open are mutually exclusive. And Madam Speaker and members, that is simply not true. Both can be accomplished. Businesses can be open and yet we can remain safe at the same time. So when I analyze our present state, what Governor Walz has implemented in this emergency that he has called in determining which businesses are going to be closed and which remain open, there is a great deal of subjectivity and, in my opinion, I'll go even a little bit further to say hypocrisy. Right now, big box stores can sell shirts, but our mom and pop local clothing stores cannot. Big box stores can sell, or big box grocery stores can sell flowers, but our local floral shops cannot. They're closed. Chiropractors can be open right now, but our professional massage therapists and acupuncturists cannot operate. It doesn't make any sense. Big box stores can sell games and toys right now, while our local hobby shops, mom and pop stores, remain closed. It doesn't make any sense. The big box stores can sell shoes, while our mom and pop local shoe stores are forced closed by Governor Walz. Right now, the big box stores can sell shampoo, while our local mom and pop cosmetic stores are forced closed. Right now, liquor stores are deemed essential. Madam Speaker, liquor stores, booze, whiskey is essential. But at the same time, church pews sit empty and cigar shops are closed. How does that make any sense? Local salons are closed, but the government employees on the Board of Cosmetology keep receiving a paycheck. The very salons that they're overseeing are forced to be closed, but the government employees are still receiving a paycheck. For doing what? So let me conclude with this one last letter that I received that is just heartbreaking and demonstrates the hypocrisy of what's going on here. So this was after our last session. Hello, Eric. I just wanted to send you a note to see what you would advise for my best friend. who was just diagnosed with breast cancer. She needs a double mastectomy. She saw the oncologist on Monday and was told that because of the elective surgery ban, a mastectomy is considered elective and therefore they cannot do life-saving surgery on her. I was so shocked to hear that. In other words, they are banning elective surgery in an attempt to save lives, but it just might cost the life of my friend. She lost her husband this past January. She grieves alone in her house due to the quarantine, and now this. Members, the local businesses that Governor Walz has chosen to shut versus those that he allows to remain open, it does not make any logical sense. Just 2 days ago, I was at a grocery store at the checkout, and I'm standing in the line, and I'm watching the customers ahead of me. Their groceries are being bagged by a store clerk, touching all of the items, and then comes to me with nothing happening in terms of cleansing the hands or changing gloves or anything like that. And yet, the exact same procedures are not allowed to happen in our local stores, members. That's why I hope you would support this. It is time to open Minnesota up, and we can do so in a safe manner. Madam Speaker, I would ask for a roll call.
Representative Lucero requests a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Discussion. The member from Blue Earth, Representative Munson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members, and Representative Lucero for bringing this motion forward. I'm glad we're having this conversation again. 2 weeks ago, we had a similar conversation on a very similar bill and a very similar resolution, and a lot of things have changed in the last 2 weeks. You know, I could sit up here and talk about how the governor is denying Minnesotans life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that the governor is denying Minnesotans the right to peaceably assemble, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, being able to gather in church to worship their God. But we should really focus on what's changed in the last 2 weeks. There are so many more businesses that are going under, tens of thousands of healthcare workers that are out of work. And keep in mind, we did this stay-at-home order so that hospitals could have more time to prepare. And they've so far prepared so much that they're not busy. They're laying off workers. And there are tens of thousands of Minnesotans, probably hundreds of thousands, that have been asked to take pay cuts because their businesses their employers are near failure. But we can't change the past of what happened. We should focus on what we can change. And that's going forward, having the legislature restore our power to actually write laws instead of allowing someone to unilaterally write laws for our state. This focus of the stay-at-home order now is on testing. That's what we hear. First it was the hospitals to have more time, now it's testing. I'm on the Health and Human Services Committee, and we've had a lot of meetings to talk about the different testing that's going on. People are fearful of this virus, and they want to know that no one at their workplace has it. So yesterday, the governor has allowed other businesses to open where they have no direct contact with people in the public if they do health screenings. Well, what are these health screenings? Are they checking for fever? That's what, they're asking people how they feel when they come to work. Over the weekend, Reuters released a report about prisons doing mass testing, testing the entire population of prisons. And what they found was a majority of people in these prisons they tested had the virus or had the virus. They went through it. And 96% of the people that had the virus were asymptomatic. They had no fever, they had no aches, they were not sick. They had the virus, they went through it, their body fight it, they have immunity. So 96% of the population that had this in the prisons didn't show any symptoms. So what are the employers looking for when they're doing screenings? They're looking for people that have fever. Or we're looking at these new tests they're coming out with, but we talked about these tests in committee. And the viral tests are 30% failure, meaning 30% of the people they test that are positive for the virus show up as negative in the results. And when you multiply that times the error is done in sampling, taking a poor sample, because the best place to take a sample for this virus to get an accurate test is on the back of your throat, above your mouth, which means they have to navigate with a swab up your nostril to get to the back of your throat to take a sample. If the sample's filled up with stuff on the way up your nostril, it's not going to be accurate. And then you take that times the error rate of finding out when someone has enough virus in them to detect on a test. When you become infected with this virus, there's only about a 2 to 3 day window after you start to become infectious that it can test positive. After that, your body starts to fight it and you're still infecting people, but you don't show up on the test. So you take those 3 factors together and you multiply the error rates and you end up with tests that are 70% false. They say you don't have the virus when you do. You test 1,000 people and 100 people are infected and contagious. These tests are only going to catch 30 of those. This provides a very false sense of security for our workers in the state. If people are waiting for testing to be rolled out en masse, it's not going to help. We need to allow people to go back to work and take precautions in the workplace to not contaminate each other. And employers overwhelmingly support this. They will do the right thing. But to require these new businesses that were able to open yesterday to have health screenings when Walmart and Menards and other employers are not required to do this, like Representative Lucero said, this is putting uneven requirements on businesses. We should allow businesses the flexibility to protect their workers and to protect the public and open the state. So I rise in support of Representative Lucero's motion. We need to reopen the state. This needs to happen, and I'm glad we're doing a roll call. So thank you, Madam Speaker and members.
The member from Candy, Ojai, Representative Baker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I take a deep breath today because I know today is I feel and I sense my stomach is up in my throat because at 2 o'clock, if the governor's coming out with his normal press conference update, I'm just nervous about what could be. If we don't get some kind of action today from the governor that remains our May 4th opening for so many businesses in Minnesota, I feel like we are going to have a dam burst and people will not understand why, because we don't have enough information. This is a big day. This is a big pivotal day because everybody's been gearing up for May 4th. May 4th, May 4th, May 4th. My friends in the restaurant industry and hotel industry are begging that we can operate and open safely because we're smart. And we've been sent to our room by the governor and we listened. We stayed home and we listened and we learned. And this is important that the governor hears us today, that within an hour, I hope, Governor, you will say this is the time to let this happen because Minnesotans who run businesses are going to do it safely because you know why? Their customers will demand it. Don't think you can walk into a restaurant like you could 5, 6, 7 weeks ago and things will be the same. Oh, no, not at all. Staffing will be different. Now, the restaurant industry has been highly regulated for many years, decades, but now we're going to show what it looks like from the back of the house, how cleanliness is being pushed and demanded. The cooler temps are just right, and if you don't have a cooler temp that's at a certain degree, that all goes in the garbage. If you don't have a clean kitchen, if you don't have a clean walk-in cooler, that stops. They can shut you down, and believe me, I've never had that happen to me, but it has been happening to others, and they learn, and you learn once, and you do it right. But I want to make sure the message to the governor today is simply this. We can't stop this spread. I wish we could, and I think Minnesotans have done a darn good job doing what they've been told to do it the right way. I think the governor, early on in this thing, did a good job in throttling down things. We saw these potential spikes coming, and we all listened and learned. But the facts just don't add up right now about what we've seen because what has happened in the last 2 weeks has been remarkable with the data. So if we're going to pay attention to data, then let's look at the data. We've got, I think it's 100 beds or so, 120 beds in ICU today with almost 3,000 ready to go. Only 120 are being used around the whole state of Minnesota. In my county, we have 1 bed right now that's being used with the COVID issue. We can't stop it, but boy, are Minnesotans smart today. We know what safe distancing means. We know that we don't shake hands anymore. Everything is different. And I think it's been a real slap to all of us to really see how important our economies have been, and to see it shut down is just, it's breathtaking. And today, I just urge the governor to hear a few comments about what businesses he can open on May 4th or sooner. You mentioned earlier, Representative Lucero, and I thank you for bringing this forward. This is a great resolution. I plan on supporting this. The churches are empty, and I think the churches could be opened safely. I know they could. I know that there's not a pastor out there or a rabbi or anybody that operates a worship center that will not think of that. Doesn't mean everybody should go to church, but it means that the folks that can go to church should be able to go to church. If there's a time I want to go to church, it is right now. And I hope that we can do that soon. But I want to talk about the spas and the barbers, the folks that have been hurt from the very beginning when the governor shut them down. They do not have the ability to get unemployment. They were not able to collect anything. They were not able to pay their rent. Their customers were not able to come in. And I will tell you, Governor, that this industry has worked tirelessly with your Board of Cosmetology to put together some protocols that are in your possession right now, and we hope that that can be opened up on May 4th. They're ready to go, no waiting rooms, appointments only. They are doing things differently today because they learned, and they did it the right way. I want to talk for a minute about the diners and the cafes, our smallest little restaurants that can do this safely with, again, disposable menus, one-time use, limited hours, no waiting rooms inside. And if you're full with no seats, you have a sign on the front door, no seating available, please wait outside. And if there is, you flip it around and says seating is available. And that manages the flow. So you don't have people standing around, but the staff will have masks. This industry is ready to do this. And also, I want to talk about patients with pain. Members know that I've been working on pain issues for a long time, and these elective surgeries are critical right now to folks with chronic pain. There are procedures that are being done that before the shutdown were enormously helpful for people to not take more opioids. They were nerve procedures that they can do an out procedure and help the back pain. There are steroid injections that give months of relief to pain, where people can feel normal and do their normal things in their daytime and have some very minor pills to maybe supplement a flare-up. But right now, these are all backing up. In the governor's office, I've been in touch with their senior staff there for 3 weeks, and I have heard nothing coming out to help people in excruciating pain, and all they have left right now is to go to the ER room and ask for opioids, which they have worked so hard to get off of. So, Governor, that is an area that we can keep that going and allow the pain clinics and elective surgeries, elective procedures to be opened carefully. There's things that rise to the top faster than other procedures. I hope that's one of them. And finally, I just wanted to mention just something small. Let's let the hotels that are open, let them use their swimming pools. It's chlorinated waters of bodies of water. They are safe. Let the operators determine what the capacity ought to be today. It's probably going to be much smaller than it was before the shutdown. We can still close the hot tubs, but let hotels, let them use their amenities that they've paid dearly for to let them sell a few more guest rooms over the weekend when kids need a break or a little birthday party. Maybe have a limit. Let the operators do this. They are smart people. They're my colleagues, and I'm proud to stand with them. But we need to give them more tools to utilize. So, Governor, this is a big day. Please don't use a machete and just do a broad stay at home for another 2 to 4 weeks. Use a scalpel and do this right. We are not talking about big concerts right now. We're not talking about things that you cannot do, nightclubs in a spread out version. You can't do that right now. But do this because we have to. Let our business owners open the doors. Let them compete with the big stores, because right now the busiest place in town on Sunday mornings is your local Menards store or Home Depot. And if you go there, I've got so many stores that would love to have a chance of selling a ring at the jewelry store. How about a Hobby Lobby or a smaller hobby store that could open up and sell all the things that Walmart sells? Just be fair, but we can open up small retailers, we can open up our small diners and cafes, and the bars and restaurants can do it smartly. But we've got 67 counties that have yet to have a death in Minnesota. That's a pretty big deal. But boy, we're all shut down tight. So Governor, please, I hope today is not a day where we have this outlandish announcement where you don't think we're smart enough to take care of our businesses. We need to collect dollars for our state of Minnesota. We need to collect revenues, sales tax. We need to get our employees back to work. So Governor, please, this is the day. We hope that we are looking at May 4th as a good day. Thank you.
The member from Scott, Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On March 13th, Governor Walz declared a peacetime emergency for the purpose of gearing up our state agencies to battle COVID-19 and set a goal of testing 15,000 Minnesotans a month. And of course, on March 13th, we did have a true emergency. On March 25th, the governor ordered his shelter-in-place order and shut down the state's dine-in restaurants for the purpose of bending the curve so that we wouldn't overwhelm our ICUs and hospitals. We were to buy time to build up the capacity of these health providers. On April 8th, the governor extended his shelter-in-place order through May 4th. The governor noted that the extension was not designed to stop the infection, but simply to slow it down, to ensure that all Minnesotans who would have access to care they need when they needed it. On Thursday, April 23rd, the University of Minnesota, along with the Mayo Clinic, were finally authorized by the administration to turn loose their testing capacity to the tune of 35,000 tests per day, a goal likely more ambitious than any place in the world. And just last Friday, April 24th, this administration loosened the restrictions on non-customer-facing offices that can accommodate social distancing, allowing possibly as many as 100,000 Minnesotans to go back to the jobs that help take care of themselves, their families, and their communities. Members, today is April 29th. 301 Minnesotans have tragically lost their lives to COVID-19. Nearly every single heartbreaking death was someone over 65 or suffered from an underlying health condition. An overwhelming majority of these deaths have occurred in congregate care settings, like nursing homes, where this virus has caused unspeakable damage. Members, the administration has accomplished the job of addressing this public health challenge. But as you all know, it has come at a tragic, almost unimaginable cost to our friends and neighbors. On April 15th, Deed reported that over 460,000 Minnesotans filed for unemployment. On Friday, the U.S. unemployment rate hit 20.6%, a level not seen since 1934. Last Friday, the Prior Lake City Council passed a resolution urging this governor to allow other small businesses, including restaurants and Main Street boutiques, to reopen, applying the same criteria customized to their business that he deigns appropriate in order to permit offices, big box corporate stores, and other essential businesses to operate. To paraphrase our mayor during the special council meeting called to authorize this resolution, for these dozens of businesses, it's not sooner or later. It's now or never. And Madam Speaker, to put it even more succinctly, game over. In Prior Lake, included in these businesses are two women who sunk everything they had into a successful clothing boutique store. They just celebrated their one-year anniversary under quarantine. Meanwhile, sadly, those same customers can buy similar clothes online or at the big box stores. If they can't reopen by June 1st, there will be no fall inventory, and there will be no business to come back to. Game over. In Prior Lake, we have a number of restaurants run by families in their second or third generation who are running at 30 or 40% capacity. Many are wondering why they can't adapt their practices to keep their staff and customers safe, while these same customers can shop mask and PPE free across the street at the liquor store or hardware store. Soon they too will be swamped, even with the help of the Paycheck Protection Program. Once again, game over. We are starting to see the very real consequences of this economic tsunami. I submit, members, that here on April 29th, we're about where we were on March 12th with respect to addressing this economic damage, much of which has already arrived to a Main Street near you. Other states are acknowledging this and are leading with compassion and courage. Last week, Georgia, Colorado, Tennessee, Alaska, Florida, and even California began to reopen sectors of their economy, providing guidelines to their citizens and trusting them to use these and other tools to keep themselves and their customers safe. Elective surgeries, medical procedures, haircuts, grooming, and restaurants all can accommodate these new public health restrictions, and they are ready to reopen. Minnesota's county commissioners, our mayors and city councils are not irrelevant to this fight, as shown by my own Prior Lake City Council. They are competent, they are compassionate, and they are well informed. And they, like me, believe that failing to stand alongside our businesses, our neighbors, and our entrepreneurs is not an option. In a few months, when we contact trace the way of this economic infection and how it's developed into its own pandemic, will we look back to these weeks as a time where this body, like others across the country, took the steps necessary to isolate and combat this economic infection, to encourage healing, trusting our family and neighbors to do what they must to navigate the storm that is upon them? Our public health emergency was necessary. And yes, it was difficult. But it is now time to enter phase 2, managing our new normal. We're starting that new normal better positioned than many other states. And the world over, governments are beginning to operate in non-emergency mode. They're using the collective judgment of their legislatures, their city and their county governments, and their agencies as well, to make those difficult, critical decisions. We are not Georgia. We are not Colorado. We are not New York. Their solutions are not required here. Governor, let's get Minnesota back to work. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Candy, Ojai, Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Representative Lucero, for bringing this very common sense resolution forward for us to be able to begin the process of reopening this state. Madam Speaker and members, I agree with much of what's already been said. I don't want to repeat that. But what I do want to share with everyone, I was compelled after a phone call yesterday to share a story from one of my constituents, and that's what I want to do, because we can talk over here on the floor about policies, we can talk about numbers, we can talk about impacts. There's all sorts of things that probably do need to be discussed, but in the end, everything that we do here in the Minnesota House of Representatives affects the individuals back in our district, and we're here to represent them, and that's the story that I'd like to share with all of you here. So yesterday I received a phone call from a pork producer, hog farmer, named Mark. He called me. He's a person that probably has never called a government official before. He grew up on the farm. It's a true family farm that his dad started himself many years ago. And now Mark and his brother are helping their dad, and they're slowly taking over this operation. But Mark is a person that just wants to do his work at the farm. He doesn't want to deal with policy. He doesn't want to hear about what politics are and stuff like that. He just wants to be able to do the work that he was raised and he knows how to do. Mark is only in his early 30s. This is not a farmer that's been around ever. This is the sort of person that we want to encourage. The average age for a farmer is 57 years old. He's much younger than that. These are the people that we need to have involved. And I'll never forget, when Mark called me, he said, he kind of started with, I don't know what you can do, but I'm calling you because I think you're the person I have to call. And he said, I don't want money. I want to do my job and feed people. If there is anything you can do, please do it. Well, members, this is what I can do. We are empowered in the Minnesota legislature to end this if we move forward with this resolution today. Now, to understand Mark's plight, I jotted a few notes, and I think it's important to understand what this means. The realities are on the farm, the realities with processors, which are effectively shut down, and the realities for all of us. Now, the realities on the farm, members, and I know many of you know this, some may not, but the process of when you're raising livestock is not a system that you can just turn the spigot off and then turn it back on at a later date. As Mark said it, he goes, I can keep a bin full of corn, but I can't keep the hogs on the farm. What does he mean by that? Well, I asked him how many. They have about 2,600 sows that give birth to piglets. For a family farm, that's really big, okay? There are operations that are much bigger than that. I said, how much do you send out to market during each week? Because they send them out each week. They send to market typically about 1,200 to 1,300 hogs a week go out from their farm into the market. In the last several weeks, it's down to about 200 or 300. And he told me yesterday that now it's effectively stopped. They have nothing that they can send out. Now, members, this is a system. I had a friend in agriculture once that referred to it as a clock. I like that model because all the parts need to work together and all the parts keep moving. This is kind of an input system. You move through, and what starts here goes through to the end, and it goes out the other end, but you can't stop that process. So even though he has nowhere to send his hogs that are now ready for market, matter of fact, some of them are no longer probably good for the market. They're getting close to their end. I'll explain that in a second. He has to keep producing piglets with these sows. Why? couple reasons. First of all, that's the system. Second of all, it takes about a year for these hogs from when they're born to when they go to market, so you cannot stop that. So the numbers obviously don't add up there. If he normally sends out 1,200 a week and now he's down to 200 and effectively zero, what happens to that other 1,000? And I asked him, I said, what are you going to be doing with this? I've been hearing rumors, and I wanted to hear from Mark himself. What are you doing with this? And he said, well, we are at the point to where we are going to have to euthanize the hogs, and then we're going to have some will go to a rendering plant, effectively dog and cat food, and some will be composted. Now, members understand these are 350-pound animals, 1,000 350-pound animals. And I said, if you're composting 1,000 hogs, how do you do that? His response was, yeah, exactly. Well, I said, no, I literally don't know how you do that. And I'm not going to get descriptive here, members. He did get descriptive to me. Rendering is the polite term, okay? That's what's happening across the state of Minnesota on these farms to thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hogs. So now the realities with processors. Now the processors are doing this. They did have to, some of them had to close down because of the COVID outbreak, and be sure that that is the case. Now, the processors close it themselves. We can argue that government didn't necessarily have a direct role in that. But members, here's one of the, and I'm going to give you one for the sake of brevity, here's one example of the troubles that they're facing. There's unintended consequences sometimes with the good things that we do, with unemployment insurance, with the federal money that's coming in, the PPP, all of that. I guess PPP would be the bad example for this. But there is money that people are receiving to not work. And there's many people that cannot work, and I'm thankful that we got the funds for them. But members, these processors, their biggest challenge is they can't get the employees to come in work, even if they wanted to. And they're effectively shutting down. Just like the farmers, the processors, it's not as simply a system as shutting it down and firing it back up. That's going to take time. And then, members, I want to talk about the realities for all of us. We talk about how farmers feed the world and how proud we are of them, and we are. And Minnesota is one of the biggest agricultural states in the United States, and I'm very proud of the work that our producers do. But here's the reality, folks. If they are rendering and composting all these hogs, what are we going to have when this changes? I went shopping a couple days ago up to Costco in St. Cloud and went back to the meat market, and we got some beef. And then I thought, I want to get some pork chops. We're going to grill out this weekend. It was a nice weekend. We're going to grill out. And I go over to the pork section, completely empty. Completely empty. What's going to happen with all of these? What's going to happen with our meat supply coming down the road soon? What's going to happen with our food supplies? This is a very serious concern. Mark's story is not alone. There's many other farmers. There's many other businesses represented. Baker talked about some of the other industries that are being greatly affected by this. In agriculture, a couple weeks ago, I talked to a cattleman. Same thing with his cattle. Now Jenny O, I believe, and I'd kind of look over Representative Baker, I think they either have shut down or they're going to shut down. So that's poultry. We're facing a very significant challenge here, members. And the one challenge that I have to Governor Walz is we've posed this as it's either the economy or the safety of people. I don't agree with that proposition. I never have. We need to be smart. We need to be safe. We shouldn't be afraid. But we also need to make sure that we keep things going. Members, this issue with hogs, I can give you a story that is difficult right now. Mark told me he'd like to invite legislators and the governor out to his farm to watch what it does to take to compost 350-pound hogs, several hundred at a time. No one's going to want to do that, but he's going to have to be doing that pretty soon. And members, if it's bad now, it's going to get really bad in weeks to come because those new piglets are coming through. They're growing up. When they're ready, again, for brevity, they can't keep the hogs. They got to move on. I'll just say that, okay? Members, we can do this effectively with this resolution. This is not irrational. This is a very logical way to do this. We send this over to the Senate, as we discussed a couple weeks ago. As it sits over there, we work with the governor's office and put together a comprehensive plan. The one challenge that I've had for Governor Walz is he's not addressing the legislature, and this is our job to do this stuff. There are some expediency things, some emergency things we need to do early, but we have the time to make these things happen. We know the people, we know the solutions that really work. Governor Walz, please include us in these plans. We can do that with this resolution today. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I ask for everyone's support.
The member from Wabasha, Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, thank you, Representative Lucero, for bringing this resolution. I'm supportive of the resolution. I encourage everybody to vote for it. This resolution is nearly identical to the one that I brought a couple of weeks ago. It's constitutional, it's well thought out. It doesn't simply put forward some of the executive orders that the governor has, but allows instead the legislature, as Representative Miller pointed out, to work in partnership with the governor to form policy going forward, to do things like codifying the July 15th tax deadline, things that we really will need to do. As I look at what has happened, and we look back, when we first were introduced to the reality of this virus in the media here in this country, people didn't know what to think. People didn't know what it was. We're still learning what it is. Many of us learn every day. But we've learned a lot since then. And our first reaction here in Minnesota, as many other states, was to run to government and seek government to tell people what they can't do. And that's what we did here in Minnesota. A number of states didn't do that. They instead protected the constitutional freedoms of people and confided in them and their responsibility individually to do things that will help protect them and their neighbors. And as we look at the approach we took here, and the governor came out, and I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, he said, we're going to lose 74,000 people if we don't do anything. That's what he said. And then he said, if we lock the state down, we're going to lose 50 to 55,000. And then he has a model that he put together, another rendition apparently with the University of Minnesota. Now it's at 20,000. And members, none of those models are correct. And to the governor's defense, that's probably all he had to go with at the time as he talked with professionals in the healthcare and epidemiology area, because we didn't know a lot about this disease. But the reality is we're learning a lot now. We're actually getting our nose to the ground and making measurements. And we're finding that large numbers of the population in many of those measurements that have been taken throughout the country, large percentages of the population have already had the disease, up to half of them demonstrating no symptoms. So we never were shown the governor's numbers behind the screen on the models, and it would be good to see those, because we can find out and learn where they were wrong, because, members, they were very, very wrong. And instead of relying on predictive models that are based on a number of assumptions that are wrong, we should instead try to find out and measure what is out there. And members, that is science. We need to use science going forward. And we're learning, we're measuring, we're going to continue to measure, and I think that's a good thing. And instead of the 3% of people dying from this disease, or the 2% or the 1%, we're learning that it's closer to 0.1%, nearly identical to that of the flu. The thing that's different from the flu, is that this is very, very, very contagious. So the incidence of it happens a lot more. So it's like a very, very contagious flu. That's kind of what I'm arriving at. But as we look at what those other states did and put our nose to the ground there and compare the states that did full lockdown, or lockdown similar to Minnesota did, and those that did not. In Minnesota, So far, with our lockdown here in Minnesota, 54 deaths per million people today. 54 deaths per million people. So if we go to some of our neighbors that did not lock their state down, did not force people to stay in their home, Iowa's got 43 deaths per million people. North Dakota, 25. Nebraska, 29. Arkansas, 17. And South Dakota, 13. Compared to 54 here in Minnesota, where the government solution was the answer. Now we can look at some other states that did lockdowns too. California's got 46, pretty close to the number that Minnesota has. Wisconsin, 49. Florida, 57. Texas, 25, actually lower. And then Michigan, 342 deaths per million. New Jersey, 680 deaths per million. New York, 1,153 deaths per million, 1,100 more deaths per million than the 54 deaths per million here in Minnesota. So the correlation between whether a government response provided better results doesn't exist. And as a matter of fact, it will actually show you the opposite. Those states that confided in their people, in them to exhibit their freedoms to protect themselves and their neighbors, those states actually are doing much better on average than those that turn to government. So members, it's time to go outside. We have been in our policy here encouraging people to stay inside, where many times we have these air exchange systems in these big buildings that exchange air versus the prohibitions that we have on people not actually being allowed to go to parks and on trails where sunlight is plentiful. The UV containing sunlight that is the fastest deterrent or killer of this disease. We have to start looking at things differently. Our hospitals, many of them are nearly empty. And so it was mentioned before that we have people who are not being properly diagnosed for diseases that are going to eventually kill them. Cancer and heart disease are the biggest killers of people in Minnesota and throughout our country. The biggest health threats we have to diagnose those properly. There are people who are being held up from being able to get proper medical care, attention, and diagnosis. So members, it's been said, I think Representative Albright did a good job talking about our business community and what we have going on. Many of our businesses are going to die if we don't change course here soon. We can do the job as Minnesotans at helping people protect themselves, protect the people who are most vulnerable to this disease, because they are more vulnerable than the average is. And we know who they are. Let's help protect them, but let's bring people and their freedom back. Let's give people the ability to take care of themselves and their neighbors and do commerce and get our economy going again and get our hospitals open and do the things we need to do to build a strong people, a strong population, and a strong Minnesota. Because members, the cure that's in front of us is worse than the disease. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Hennepin, the Majority Leader, Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, members, I would encourage a no vote on the motion to suspend the rules and take up the concurrent resolution. Ending the peacetime emergency right now is not going to put Minnesota back on track economically, financially, and certainly it is not going to improve Minnesotans' health or likelihood of surviving this disease. Members, we have many options in front of us to address the very real concerns raised by you today related to small businesses, hog farmers, other parts of the ag economy that are suffering right now. We do need to take action to support them. We do need to take action to try to help them through this difficult time. I would encourage members to support House File 1507, which is moving through committee right now, which will provide $50 million in forgivable loans to businesses with 0 to 20 employees. We know it's a problem. We all do. We know that federal action is important and it's been a first step, but we need more of it. And we will be encouraging the federal government to provide additional support. We also have House File 4541, which will provide $100 million in housing assistance, money that will not just go to renters, but will go to homeowners and will go to landlords, people who are struggling to figure out how they're going to continue making mortgage payments, how they're going to continue to keep their buildings from going under. And we need to take that action, and that bill is moving through committee, and we can take it up. We also have House File 168, which is a temporary pay increase for personal care attendants in Minnesota, the people who are, in fact, out there providing vital services, essential services to our families, our community members, our loved ones, and are extremely poorly paid. In fact, if you look at what's going on with the disease right now in Minnesota, most of the deaths we're seeing are in congregate care settings where they don't have adequate personal protective equipment, where the staff is paid a very low wage, and where they are dependent on the state to help provide the funds to provide the equipment and to get the staff in place. We are in a situation in which we do not have adequate equipment and we don't have adequate staff to protect the people who are currently dying at the highest rates. We do need to take action, and providing a temporary pay increase for PCAs and for others providing those services, those essential services, is contained in House File 168. We are taking action on the very things that we are concerned about. I also would encourage members to be careful about the stories we're repeating. It is not true that essential medical services are unavailable. They are. If it is a life-threatening situation, if it is a non-elective procedure, and we need to use PPE in order to protect people's lives, doctors should be doing that. Hospitals should be providing those services. The point is, non-essential services are not going forward because we need the equipment. We need the stockpile of equipment to take care of people. We need the people who are caring for people to be protected. That is why we are not engaging in non-essential medical services, and it's really important that we not spread misinformation about that. Finally, I would encourage us to avoid and resist the temptation to be a epidemiologist, a doctor, or a medical expert here on the House floor. There's much we don't know. In fact, far more we don't know than what we do know. If we are successful in controlling the speed at which this virus spreads through Minnesota, then we will be not thanked for it because everyone will have seen only the necessary steps in order to stop it. And I finally would just say that it is not the government, it is not state government, it is not Governor Walz who has shut down Minnesota businesses. It is a virus. It is people being concerned about their own health. Are there arbitrary and unfair results of these actions to some groups, some individuals, some businesses? Yes, there are. Are we looking at all the ways possible to provide assistance for those who are suffering the most? Yes, we are. And we can do that together by taking action. Finally, members, I would just say that it is not easy, I would imagine, to be the party opposite the governor when the governor is exercising this extraordinary amount of executive power. And I think that for the most part, Republican leaders have been pretty restrained in their criticisms and have been pretty willing to put up with somebody not in their party leading the state in a very difficult time. And I would encourage us all to continue to support necessary actions by the governor. It's perfectly acceptable to provide criticisms and look for alternative ways forward. I know that the governor is very much focused on that, and nobody besides, other than Tim Walz himself, nobody wants to reopen and keep the state safe and help us recover more than all of the legislators here. So we can be sure that the governor is taking the very best steps possible to get Minnesota back on track as soon as we safely can do so. So members, I would encourage a no vote on this motion. The time to end the peacetime emergency is not now. The public doesn't want it now. The time to provide necessary relief to businesses and individuals who are suffering right now has come, and I hope you will support the measures I described. Please vote no.
Under the rules of the House, this motion requires 90 votes under Rule 4.30. A roll call having been requested and 15 hands having been raised, the clerk will take the roll. For folks on the phone, again, if you could, please state your name and your vote, and if you can do so when we call your name in alphabetical order, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Acom.
Acom, no.
Acom, no. Albright. Albright, aye. Anderson.
Anderson, aye.
Anderson, aye. Backer.
Backer, aye.
Backer, aye. Bonner.
Bonner, nay.
Bonner, no. Barr. Barr, aye. Baker. Baker, aye. Becker Finn.
No.
Becker Finn, no. Bennett.
Bennett, aye.
Bennett, aye. Bernardi.
Bernardi, no.
Bernardi, no. Bierman.
Bierman, no.
Bierman, no. Bull.
Bo, aye.
Bull, aye. Brand.
Brand, no.
Brand, no. Cantrell.
Cantrell, no.
Cantrell, no. Carlson, A.
Carlson, A, no.
Carlson, A, no. Carlson, L.
Carlson, L, no.
Carlson, L, no. Christensen.
Christensen, no.
Christensen, no. Claflin.
Claflin, no.
Claflin, no. Considine.
Considine, no.
Considine, no. Daniels.
Daniels votes aye.
Daniels, aye. Doubt. Doubt, aye. Davids. Davids, aye. Davney. Davney.
Dabney, no.
Davney, no. Dean.
Dean, no.
Dean, no. Damath. Damath, aye. Detmer.
Detmer, aye.
Detmer, aye. Drazkowski. Drazkowski, aye. Eklund.
Eklund, no.
Eklund, no. Edelson.
Edelson, no.
Edelson, no. Elkins.
Elkins, no.
Elkins, no. Erickson. Erickson, aye. Fabian.
Fabian, aye.
Fabian, aye. Fisher.
Fisher, no.
Fisher, no. Franzen.
Franson, aye.
Franzen, aye. Freiberg.
Freiberg, no.
Freiberg, no. Garofalo.
Garofalo, aye.
Garofalo, aye. Gomez.
Gomez, no.
Gomez, no. Green. Green, aye. Grossel.
Grossel, aye.
Grossel, aye. Gruenhagen.
Gruenhagen, aye.
Gruenhagen, aye. Gunther.
Gunther, aye.
Gunther, aye. Haley. Haley, aye. Halverson.
Halverson, no.
Halverson, no. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hanson.
Hanson, no.
Hanson, no. Hassan.
Hassan, no.
Hassan, no. Hausman.
On mute. Houseman, no.
Hausman, no. Heinrich.
Heinrich, aye.
Heinrich, aye. Heinzman.
Heinzman, aye.
Heinzman, aye. Her.
Her, no.
Her, no. Hertos.
Kurtos, aye.
Hertos, aye. Hornstein.
Hornstein, no.
Hornstein, no. Howard.
Howard, no.
Howard, no. Hewitt.
Hewitt, no.
Hewitt, no. Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Johnson, aye. Jordan.
Jordan, no.
Jordan, no. Jurgens.
Jurgens, aye.
Jurgens, aye. Keel.
Aye.
Keel, aye. Cleavorn.
Cleaborn, no.
Cleavorn, no. Cagle.
Cagle, no.
Cagle, no. Katiza Watun.
Katiza Watun.
Katiza Watun.
Katiza Watun, no.
Katiza Watun, no. Kosnick.
Cosmic, aye.
Kosnick, aye. Kreshaw. Kreshaw. Kunish Podine.
Kunish Podine, no.
Kunish Podine, no. Lehman. Lehman, aye. Lee.
Lee, no.
Lee, no. Lesh.
Lesh, no.
Lesh, no. Liebling.
Liebling, no.
Liebling, no. Lean.
No.
Lean, no. Lily.
Lily, no.
Lily, no. Lippert.
Lippert, no.
Lippert, no. Lislegard.
Lislegard, no.
Lislegard, no. Long.
Long, no.
Long, no. Lucero. Lucero, aye. Lewick.
Yes. Lewick, yes.
Lewick, aye. Mahoney. Excused. Mann.
Why am I unmuted? You could.
Man, no.
Mann, no. Mariani.
Mariani Bolts, no.
Mariani, no. Marquardt.
Marquardt, no.
Marquardt, no. Mason.
Mason, no.
Mason, no. McDonald.
McDonald, aye. Yes.
McDonald, aye. Mecklin.
Meckland, aye.
Mecklin, aye. Miller. Miller, aye. Moeller.
Moeller, no.
Moeller, no. Moran.
Moran, no.
Moran, no. Morrison.
Morrison, no.
Morrison, no. Munson. Munson, aye. Murphy.
Murphy, no.
Murphy, no. Nash.
Nash, aye.
Nash, aye. Nelson M.
Nelson M, no.
Nelson M, no. Nelson N.
Nelson N, aye.
Nelson N, aye. New.
New, aye.
New, aye. Nor.
No. No.
Nor, no. Nornis.
Nornis, aye.
Nornis, aye. Novotny.
Novotny, aye.
Novotny, aye. O'Driscoll.
O'Driscoll, yes.
O'Driscoll, aye. Olson.
Olson, no.
Olson, no. O'Neill.
O'Neill, aye.
O'Neill, aye. Pulowski.
Pulowski, no.
Pulowski, no. Purcell.
Purcell, no.
Purcell, no. Petersburg.
Petersburg, aye.
Petersburg, aye. Pearson. Pearson.
Pearson, aye.
Pearson, aye. Pinto.
Pinto, no.
Pinto, no. Poppy.
Poppy, no.
Poppy, no. Poston.
Poston, aye.
Poston, aye. Pryor.
Pryor, no.
Pryor, no. Quam.
Quam, aye.
Quam, aye. Richardson.
Richardson, no.
Richardson, no. Robbins.
Robbins, aye.
Robbins, aye. Runbeck. Runbeck, aye. Sandell.
Sandell, no.
Sandell, no. Sandsted.
Sandsted, no.
Sandsted, no. Salk.
Salk, no.
Salk, no. Schumacher.
Schumacher, aye.
Schumacher, aye. Schultz.
Schultz, no.
Schultz, no. Scott. Scott, aye. Stevenson.
Stevenson, no.
Stevenson, no. Sundin.
Sundin, no.
Sundin, no. Swazinski.
Swazinski, aye.
Swazinski, aye. Tabke.
Tabke, no.
Tabke, no. Tice.
Tice, aye.
Tice, aye. Torkelson.
Torkelson, aye.
Torkelson, aye. Erdahl.
Erdahl, yes.
Erdahl, aye. Vang.
Vang, no.
Vang, no. Vogel. Vogel.
Vogel, aye.
Vogel, aye. Wagenius.
Wagenius, no.
Wagenius, no. Wozlowick.
Wozlowick, no.
Wozlowick, no. West.
West, aye.
West, aye. Winkler. Winkler, no. Wolgamott.
Wolgamott, no.
Wolgamott, no. Zhang J, excused. Zhang T.
Zhang T, no.
Zhang T, no. Joachim.
Joachim, no.
Joachim, no. Speaker Hartman. Speaker Hartman, no. Kreshaw. Kreshaw.
Kreshaw, aye.
Kreshaw, aye.
There being 59 ayes and 73 nays, the motion does not prevail.
Munson moves that the rules of the House be so far suspended so that House Concurrent Resolution Number 8 be recalled from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration and be placed upon its final adoption.
The member from Blue Earth, Representative Munson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I understand some political games were played today so that my resolution came in second. This is almost identical to the resolution that Representative Lucero brought forward. And I would just want to say a couple of things about this. We're going to debate this again. This is going to come up again for another vote. For the members that voted no today, I ask that you contact the people in your district, especially the small businesses, especially the people who can't work, and talk to them about the plan going forward. We don't have enough money in the federal government or the state to pay businesses for their losses. This is a taking from businesses. This is a taking from citizens. You are taking away people's livelihoods, and all the money in the world can't pay for that. People work their whole lives to build what they have. to employ the people in their community. And you can't compensate people for these losses. This is going to come up again for a vote, and you're running out of excuses for why you're voting no. This is no longer about the hospitals being prepared. This is no longer about the testing that we need to do. This is about some other political thing that's coming into this that we need to address. But we need our state to reopen, and whenever we open our state, there will be risks. We need to address that and give people their freedoms back. And Madam Speaker, I withdraw my motion to bring up this resolution. Thank you.
Representative Munson withdraws his motion. Announcements. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 9 a.m. Thursday, April 30th, 2020.
Representative Winkler moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 9 a.m. Thursday, April 30th. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Winkler moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The House stands adjourned until 9 a.m. Thursday, April 30th, 2020.